Hi everyone, it's Dr. Leah Saunders, naturopathic doctor here. If you're watching this video, you're probably having some inkling that your hormones are out of whack. One of the most common reasons this happens is because of stress. And I want to share with you how stress causes hormonal imbalance and what you can do about it. Stress literally steals your hormones. Think about it. You're probably under some degree of stress at work, maybe at home, especially if you're the do-it-all mom. Maybe you wish you had a little bit more money, which causes you to feel annoyed about how hard you work and how little it's appreciated. And if that's not happening, you're inadvertently stressed from your environment. None of us live in a bubble, or from the food you're eating, because no one's perfect. So this picture probably looks familiar to you. Stress used to serve one purpose. That was to run from lions and tigers and bears. And that used to happen occasionally. Now stress happens all the time. You know the feeling: anxiousness, restlessness, a racing heart, trouble focusing, an upset stomach, and of course, hormonal imbalance. But what does that mean? Here's what happens in your body and in relation to your hormones on a biochemical level when you're under stress. We all make in or take in cholesterol that gets converted into something called pregnenolone. Pregnenolone then goes on to produce DHEA, our anti-aging hormone, which then goes on to make testosterone and our estrogens, the primary hormones responsible for making us feel sexy and energized. Pregnenolone also goes on to make progesterone, a key hormone for female fertility, something called aldosterone, and the most famous of all, cortisol, our major stress hormone. But here's the thing. When we're under tons of stress, something called the pregnenolone steal happens. Cortisol literally steals pregnenolone from being converted to everything else so it can make more of itself. That's why we call it the pregnenolone steal. All of your other hormones drop off the map, but cortisol stays high. Here's what high cortisol feels like. You probably will notice an increased heart rate. Maybe your blood pressure has gone up. You start having anxiety, difficulty fighting infections, so chronic colds and flus. Your blood sugar becomes imbalanced, which suppresses insulin. You start storing more fat, and your thyroid function goes down. That all leads to more weight gain around your midsection, trouble sleeping, mood swinging all over the place, particularly irritability. Your energy drops off the map. You hit those afternoon walls, and you've got trouble focusing and concentrating in general. So if you were to measure your cortisol, here's what that would look like. Stress causes the brain to signal the adrenal gland to put out cortisol, and it should fluctuate throughout the day. So in somebody who has elevated cortisol, when it's measured, it will show up at the high end of the range. But it's also important to note that after cortisol is high for a really long time, your adrenal glands can actually become exhausted and start producing less and less cholesterol or cortisol. And when you measure it, it's all at the bottom of the range. That leads to something called adrenal fatigue or insufficiency. That's why it's key to measure your cortisol and to find out where it's at. You'll want to bring it down if it's too high, and you'll want to bring it up if it's too low to feel your best and ultimately balance your hormones. So if the symptoms of high cortisol sound like you, here are my top 5 tips for reducing cortisol levels. Get enough sleep. Sleeping properly is super important for recharging your adrenal glands and balancing cortisol. Melatonin is that key hormone that helps us sleep, and it keeps cortisol in check. Eat good food and don't forget to eat. Skipping meals is stressful on your body and further raises cortisol and causes blood sugar imbalances. So eat good food and don't skip your meals. Move that butt. Sit less, move more, and get outside. Exercise burns off cortisol and the high blood sugar and body fat that comes with it. Be grateful. It's the hotline to happiness. Pick 3 things you're thankful for each day and focus on the positive. It literally rewires your brain to better balance your mood and reduce stress. And of course, CNND. Measure those cortisol levels and your hormones to find out and treat directly what's going on with you. Like I always say, don't guess, test. And in the meantime, head over and join me on Pinterest, Facebook, or Instagram and grab this manifesto for a stress-free life. Remember, life is always better when it's balanced.